Hey guys, it's J Films, and today I'm going to teach you how to crochet in the round. If you don't already know how to crochet, make sure to check out my crochet tutorial before trying this. The first thing you want to do is start off your crochet project the way you normally would. Once you have your yarn on the crochet hook, the next thing you want to do is make 2 chain stitches. Just like that. So now you should have 2 stitches on here. So next, what you want to do is insert the crochet hook into the farthest stitch from the hook. So not this one that is right next to it, but this far one here. It's easier to see with this yarn so that you can color code it. So not this blue stitch, but the green one. Insert it into there. Just like that. And then you want to just do a single crochet stitch. So you've made 1 single crochet, and you want to make a total of 6 single crochets into that same second chain stitch. So that same, the green one on here, you don't want to put it in any other stitches, just that same stitch. So we have to do it 5 more times since we've already made 1. Just a simple single crochet stitch. When crocheting in the round, one important thing that you should know is that you need to have a stitch marker to keep track of when your round ends, because, for example, when you are reading a crochet pattern, there will be a certain number of rounds you have to do or a certain number of stitches you have to do to complete a round, and it is impossible to tell when your round ends. So you can purchase a stitch marker at a craft store, or you can figure out a way to make your own. For example, my main stitch marker that I use is actually this tag that came with my chair stool, and it works the exact same as a stitch marker does. So it can close like that and then open, which is basically the exact same as a stitch marker. Or before I got that, I just used a paper clip and bent it like that, but it's not as good as a stitch marker because it isn't able to fully close, so it can fall off sometimes. Or you can even cut off a tiny piece of yarn and tie it through your stitch. So make sure to always mark. You actually want to mark the first stitch of your new round. So once you start the next round, after your first stitch, don't forget to put the stitch marker in there. So you want to insert the crochet hook into the first single crochet. So this single crochet right next to the working loop is the last single crochet you just did. So you want to count back from here. So this is the last one you did. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You want to insert it into number 1 and do a single crochet. So since that's the first stitch of your new round, pause and mark it with your stitch marker. It just goes into the stitch like that and just kind of sits there. So now, since we're increasing, when you increase, obviously, you're going to end up needing more stitches than you started with in the last round. So you don't want to just do one single crochet in each stitch, or you'll end up with the same number of stitches in the next round. So instead, if you want to double the number of stitches you started with, you're going to want to do a second single crochet in that same first stitch. So now there's 2 single crochets in that first stitch. So now you're going to move on to the next stitch. Insert it in here. Do 1 single crochet. Insert it back in that same stitch and do 1 more single crochet. And you're going to repeat that for the rest of them. Do 2 single crochets in each stitch until you reach the stitch marker. So since we started with 6 single crochets in the first round, you should now have 12 single crochets in the second round. So make sure to count that going up all the way and including the stitch with the stitch marker in it to confirm that you have 12, because otherwise it will mess up the rest of the project if you don't have the right number of stitches in your row. So that can be easily fixed now, but later on it will cause you to have to restart and come back to this step. So now you can remove the stitch marker because you won't be able to crochet any stitch that has a stitch marker in it. So you're going to start out, do your first single crochet into that stitch, mark it with the stitch marker, and then for this third row you're going to alternate with each stitch that you crochet in. So that first stitch you're just going to do one single crochet. So now we're going to move on to the second stitch, insert it, do a single crochet, and then we are going to do one more single crochet in that stitch. So you're going to continue on in a pattern like that. So this stitch, you're going to just do one single crochet, move on to the next stitch, and you're going to do two single crochet stitches for a total of 18 stitches in the round. So you can continue increasing for however long you want or however much your pattern calls for if you are using one, but you always want to make sure that you are going in multiples of 6, since we started with 6 single crochet. So you want to make sure it goes 6, 12, 18, 24, and so on. So each time you're going to increase the number of regular single crochets you do in a stitch, and there will be less stitches where you have to do 2 single crochets in one stitch. So if you were to go and do a 4th round, since in the 3rd round you did 2 single crochets in one stitch every other stitch, now you are going to do 2 stitches with 1 single crochet, and then the 3rd stitch will have 2 single crochets, and you will continue in a pattern like that. But for now, since I'm just showing you how to crochet in the round, 3 rounds is enough, and now it's time to learn how to decrease. So the form of decreasing I'm going to show you is called the invisible decrease, which is better than the other form called single crochet 2 together, because it, like the name suggests, is more invisible than the other stitch. It's harder to tell that you're decreasing, which is what you want. You want it to just look all nice and neat and uniform. So, to begin, for this row, we are going to start off by doing 1 single crochet in this stitch, making sure to mark it with the stitch marker. And then we are going to decrease. So it's going to be the same pattern kind of that we did before. You have to do the same thing when you're decreasing. So we're going to do 1 normal single crochet, and then we're going to decrease and then do it in an on-off pattern like that. So how to decrease is, normally when you are doing a crochet stitch, you insert the crochet hook like this. But that is not what we are going to do to decrease. In order to decrease, you have to insert the crochet hook into the front loop only, which, if you're looking at this green stitch here, this bottom stitch here, because it's closer to us, is the front loop only. So instead of inserting it through this top one, which is what you would normally do, insert it into this front loop. I'll show you like this. So that behind the crochet hook you can still see where you should have gone. And then you want to insert it also into the front loop of the next stitch. Then you want to yarn over and pull through the first two loops, so that there are two more loops on here now. And you want to yarn over and pull through everything. That was our first decrease. So now you're going to just do a regular single crochet in the next stitch and then decrease again. So remember, insert it into the front loop only of the first stitch, then insert it into the front loop only of the next stitch as well. You will not be doing a single crochet in this stitch. Yarn over, pull through the first two stitches, there should be two left, yarn over and pull through everything. So now you should have only 12 stitches in your row. So for the last row, in order to get back down to 6 stitches, you want to decrease every single time. Next, to end off this last row, do a slip stitch by inserting the crochet hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through everything. Next, cut the yarn, leaving some left to work with. And finish off. like that. And if you wanted to make a stuffed animal or something, you can fill the hole with stuffing or whatever else you want to fill it with. And then you can just take a sewing needle or yarn needle and just stitch back and forth to close up the opening. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that it was successful in teaching you how to crochet in the round. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.